Right.
Awesome. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday. So really excited for this interview. We're going to be talking with Katie, which is one of my clients who I've been working with for the past like 4.5 months, and just really excited about all the progress that she's made so far, both physically and then also like mentally too. And I think I really wanted to have her on, not only to just talk about obviously her journey and what she's achieved over the past 4.5 months, but also to just talk about how she fits her goals into her day, because I know she has a very busy schedule throughout the week, but she still finds a way to get the work done. And, her results are a direct reflection of that. So, Katie, how's it going?
Good.
Awesome. So Katie, tell like everyone a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? How many kids do you have if you have kids? Are you married? What do you like to do? Kind of give them a little bit of a background.
Yeah. So I am from Mansfield, Ohio. Born and raised here. I am married. My husband and I have been married. It'll be 7 years this year. So we have three little girls. They are 6, 4, and 9 months. I work full time. So I work for Children's Services. So that takes up a lot of my mental load. um, on my free time, I just try at my hardest just to be active and make memories with my kids. That's kind of what my husband and I have always tried to focus on. Since we do work throughout the week, we try to make like our weekends as jam packed as we can to just try to do things with them and make them feel loved and important. So, um, we try to be active and just do things as a family.
Oh, awesome. And you said you have a 9-month old, and I know you recently posted a couple of pictures of like your transformation since then.
Yeah.
And it's been incredible. And obviously, we've only been working together for 4.5 months, so some of that was done beforehand, but um, like you've just really bounced back. You can tell, and I can tell from like your check-ins and everything that some weeks you're a little bit hard on yourself, which we'll probably talk about a little bit in here. But
Not
other weeks,
me.
you've really been like feeling more confident and stronger, and it seems like you've been really enjoying getting back into like lifting more and getting back to like where you felt like you were before.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, I tried really hard and I did this through all three of my pregnancies. I tried really hard to stay active because I knew the more active that I was during the pregnancy, the easier the recovery would be for me. So with this last one, I ran up until about, I think like 25 or 30 weeks. And I was doing HIIT workouts. But once I had her, I kind of tried to jump back into that, and my body was like, no, you need to pump the brakes a little bit. I ended up getting a foot injury from running and had a fracture in my foot. So I was in a walking boot for about 2 months. So yeah, I was like super discouraged there for a little bit, just thinking in my head, I thought, okay, if I can't run and I can't be doing HIIT workouts, how am I ever going to get to where I want to be or lose the weight that I want to lose? So then I found you. So and now here we are.
Yeah, it's I think it's something that a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking that they like once they have a baby that they should or feel like they should be able to get back to doing exactly what they were doing before. But obviously, like that's a big stress on your body. It takes a big toll on it. And it's very like traumatic, for your body to recover from that. And you have to ease into it a lot of times. And before we like really dive in, I also did want to say that, for some of you who maybe don't know Katie, uh, she's an incredible human being. I remember it was like the first time we ever DM'd, I think. Uh, we were doing this big like fundraiser for one of our clients who had their house pretty much destroyed from the hurricanes. And Katie, without really like ever talking to me ever before, she DM'd me and donated to that, which I thought was really incredible. Like donating, to my cause or our cause when she didn't even really know me, but then she didn't even know this client at all. And she wasn't even a client of ours at this time. So she wasn't even like that big of a part of our community. But I think it just shows, how how big of a heart she has. So I wanted to just highlight that because that was, I thought that was really special that you did that.
Well, thank you.
Um, cool. So diving into back into, your journey. So um, you were exercising a lot, during your pregnancy, had your baby, and were trying to get back to that like super high intensity workouts and everything, but your body just wasn't responding to it, couldn't really handle it. Um, so, and then kind of got in touch with me. Um, Tell me, like, did you struggle with this at all in the past? Like, even before you had your most recent kid, like weight loss or getting in shape? Like, was this something you kind of always struggled with? Or like, where were you at maybe like years before we kind of met?
So I feel like I've always been like super active. I did sports my whole life. I did softball in college. I've always been very active. But if you would ever ask me if I knew what I was doing, I would tell you 1000% no. Because I think I was always like the person that I would talk to one person and they'd be like, hey, this is what's working for me. So I'm like, oh, cool. So it's going to work for me too. Well, it doesn't work like that. And I think that took me a really long time to realize. So back in like, I think it was 2020, right after I had my daughter in June of 2019, and then COVID hit. I was stuck at home with two young kids working, and life was just crazy. So I was in a workout program at that time, where I was doing HIIT workouts. So I was seeing a little bit of results, but not in the way that I wanted to see them. So add the stress of COVID, and not everybody knows this, but you obviously do. When I am stressed out, I just don't eat. I'm not like an over emotional eater. I just do the opposite, where I'm like, okay, I am on overdrive. My anxiety is terrible. I'm just not gonna eat. I don't have time for it. So then in later in 2020, my husband got diagnosed with cancer. And so add that onto my plate. I really wasn't eating, but I was doing like legit would do like a 30-minute HIIT workout and then go and run 3 miles right after it. And I was doing that like 6 times a week. So not only was my mental health insane, because I was depleted, I was exhausted, I was on overdrive all the time. I was losing inches, and people were noticing, like, oh my gosh, you look thinner, but I didn't want to be thin. I wanted to have that tone to look. So then it almost became like an obsession for me, where I think I deal a lot with my stress and my anxiety, and like, okay, how hard can I push myself? And I need to be doing, 2 workouts a day to be able to control, my mental health and getting the body that I want. But all I was doing was like beating myself down. So that was like a really hard, I would say probably like a hard year and a half for me. He didn't go into remission until middle of 2021. So at that point, then, shortly after that, I was pregnant again. So it's like I never got to a place where I could just breathe and focus on myself. I would say probably for like the last 4 years. So it is something that I have struggled with just in different ways, I think, as the years have gone on, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you are the type who, when you are stressed, your calorie intakes always come down. And that on top of the stress, on top of like the mental and physical stress of you doing so many of those workouts, especially the super high intensity ones, all kind of builds up. And um, like you said, this was something that I experienced too when I lost around like 40 pounds back in 2013. Is I lost it doing a lot of cardio. I was doing like those insanity workouts. I was doing like 2 a day almost, really cutting down my calorie intake. I wasn't tracking, but I was just like really under eating, now after knowing what I do now. And I lost weight and I lost inches, but similar situation as you, like you felt like you didn't have the muscle tone that you wanted. Like sure, your
Yeah.
clothes maybe fit looser or they felt big, but you didn't have that definition and everything. Um, and then you run into, the blessing obviously of getting pregnant, but that's, a whole nother chapter as far as, the toll it takes on your body. And I was just thinking about this too, like with my wife, like, because we obviously have, our son who's turning a year old and in like 3 or 4 months. And we were just planning, like, we want more kids and when to start trying for that. And I was just thinking in my head, like, having 4 kids and, you do it maybe 2 years apart or so, like your body, as the woman carrying the baby, it is constantly going through these like really like hard cycles on it, being pregnant, having the baby, postpartum, breastfeeding, if you do that for a year and then, getting pregnant again. So it sounds like you were going through so much with your body and so much with, your mental and emotional state with everything you were dealing, with your husband and everything in 2020 with COVID as well. And then now you got pregnant. And then where were you kind of, from that point? And was that, you said that was like 2021 then?
Well, after I said that, the more I thought about it, I think I got pregnant. It would have been like January of 2022.
Okay.
But were like we had to like I'm getting real personal here.
That's
We had to
okay.
do
That's okay.
we had to do IUI, so we started that process late 2021. So yeah, 2022 would have been when I got pregnant. So either way, I've been pregnant a lot in the 6 years that I've been struggling with all of this. So you're right, your body just never really recovers, I don't think, when you
Yeah.
do back to back like that.
Yeah, and then mentally too, like your body constantly changing up and down, going through
Yeah.
all of this. It's a lot. So then we kind of got to, you're pregnant January 2022. Obviously had your baby. What was it, like September then?
Yeah, early October.
Early October. Okay. So then now you are at that point where you described before, where you're trying all these hit workouts. Were you like tracking your food calories, like aiming for a specific goal? What were you kind of doing there?
No, and so that's something that I've always struggled with. I don't think I've ever had anybody like teach me how to fuel myself, to be honest. I think, you see all these fad diets, and I was never one that did like the no carb or anything like that. I did do Weight Watchers for a little bit, which honestly it did kind of help me just kind of recognize like what's in what I'm eating. But no, I had no idea what I was doing. In hindsight now, looking back, I was 1000% under eating for sure.
Yeah. So when we talked, so I know we talked actually a few times before you actually signed up, but
Yeah.
um, let me like ask you too, like what was the resistance there before you actually like did sign up? Those like first couple of times we talked.
I think just like the financial aspect of it is scary when you're a mom and you have 3 kids. And I was just coming off of maternity leave as well. So we had a lot of expenses. And I know I kept telling you, like, I just feel so selfish doing this. I feel so selfish, to spend this money on myself when my family could use, the money for something else. So that was definitely that was my biggest struggle, I think, for sure, in joining.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest struggle or barrier that I see like people face when I talk with them, about potentially joining the program. Like they really want to do this, they feel like they really need it, they really want to feel better. They, really do not like where they're at, but it's that guilt of like spending or investing in themselves when like they're so used to putting everyone else before them. And I think it's something really hard to get over. So like how did you get over it, right? Before you sign up? Like what made you actually flip that switch and be like, okay, this is not a selfish decision? Or like how did you frame it in your mind? Or what did you think about that made you actually overcome that?
So I don't know that I even like actually told you this, but I had right before I went on maternity leave, I had taken a different position at work. Obviously, any role in my field and in this job is like it's very mentally taxing. So right before I went on maternity leave, I had taken a new role, which did come with like a slight pay cut. And I went back and forth on that decision forever because again, I felt selfish. Like, how do I make this decision that's going to affect my family just because my mental health is suffering? And I got to the point where I realized like I cannot be a good mom. I can't be a good wife. I can't be a good friend. I can't be a good worker if I'm not taking care of myself mentally. I might be present, but I'm not really present because my headspace is elsewhere. So I remember after I had talked to you, I had talked to Rebecca through it, and she's like, Katie, I've never regretted this. And she told me all of, the positives that she's gotten from the program. So I sat down with my husband and he was like, it's a no-brainer. You have to do it. And I think what really pushed me into it is just having somebody that believed in me. He never looked at it as, oh my gosh, you're going to spend this money and this is going to be something that you're going to do for a month and you're going to be like, I'm over it. I don't want to do it. Um, Having that extra push and that support of just like, hey, I believe in you. I know your dedication and I know your drive. I know that you're going to follow through with this and you're going to be better for it. I think was my final push. Like, okay, I do deserve this. Like, I have given so much of myself to my family, to my kids, to my job. I was in school as well. So that was like another thing that I'm like, you know what? I have put so much of myself on the back burner for the last however many years. If this is something that I can do that will make me happy and teach me, skills that I can take with me for years to come, then it's definitely worth the investment. So that's kind of where I got, and I was like, okay, we're going to do it. And, and
And here we are.
I'm
uh,
glad I did for
yeah.
sure.
And you said like so many really good things in there. But I think like one of the biggest is just like you said, you were putting off like doing something like this, or maybe in other situations, you're putting off taking care of yourself and always putting, everything that you have to other people, but you can't give, yourself or give more from an empty cup. And the versions of you that they are getting because you're spreading yourself too thin, or you're not prioritizing yourself or not prioritizing your health, is probably what, like 50% of you that they could be getting if you did take a step away sometimes, or do something for yourself, invest in something for yourself. And now they're getting 90% or 100% of the Katie that they could get, or the mom that they could get, or the spouse that they could get. um like I had a call with a client. This was, I think it was like March. She had been working with me for a year, and we were talking about like, okay, like what are we gonna do next? Like, are we gonna continue? Like, are you gonna go? Do you feel confident doing this on her own? And she wanted to continue, and she was telling me about how she was talking with her husband, and her husband, before we even had that conversation, was like, "Hey, like your time with Joey is coming up, like is coming to an end, right? You're gonna keep going, right?" Like he wanted her to, because he saw how much happier she was on a day-to-day basis, how much less stressed she was, how much like better she felt about her body, about herself in general. So like when you do something for yourself, it might feel like you're being a little bit selfish, investing in yourself. You might feel a little bit guilty at first, but once you start to kind of level up and become like, the best version of you that you can be through this, um, you're able to give that to more people. And a lot of people, they notice that. Like they notice, oh, Katie, like she's glowing now, or she's happier now, or all of this stuff, or she, is able to go, not you necessarily, but let's say somebody's able to actually go and spend time with their kids on the beach now, like now that they feel confident to do so. Um, and you're just able to give so much more when you actually take time or effort, or, money, financial, whatever it is, to put towards yourself too.
Yeah, for sure. I
And
agree.
then I think another big thing too was like your husband being so supportive. Um, and I think that's so, so, so important that, he stood by your side, and he, believed in you, like you said. And that's like the biggest thing. And that's why I think like having a coach can be so important too, because some people don't have that support system. So when they're trying to do it on their own, they have nobody who like encourages them, like, hey, you're actually are doing the things you should be doing, like keep staying consistent, you're doing a great job. They don't have anybody in their ear telling them that, and they're relying
Mhm.
like on their own thoughts to tell them that. And like we all know, we're the first person to criticize ourselves, we're the first person to tear ourselves down when we feel like we're not doing a good job, even though we are. So like you had the added benefit, obviously, of having a coach to do that, but then also your spouse. But a lot of people don't even have their spouse to do that, which is really sad. And they have to rely on
Yeah.
themselves, which makes, having a coach even more valuable for those people.
Yeah. No, he has definitely always been my biggest encourager. I think he believes in me a lot of times more than I do myself. So I'm definitely thankful to have him.
Yeah. Well, told everyone in the beginning, you're pretty hard on yourself week to week. That's a common theme, but that's good. That's why, you do something like this. So, someone can kind of talk you off the ledge a little bit. Um, so was it scary? Like, what were your thoughts like when you finally, texted me? I think we were talking through text at this point, and said like, "Hey, I'm gonna do it." Like, were you scared? Were you nervous? Did you have like a pit in your stomach, or like, how did you feel? Were you excited?
I don't think I was ever like scared or nervous or thinking like, oh my gosh, this better work or I'm gonna be livid. I never had those feelings. I think for me it was more like I'm finally gonna learn how to reach my goals. Like I never felt like I'm gonna regret this or anything. I will say my biggest thing that terrified me was realizing that I didn't have like everything that I needed at home. And you were like, hey, you might have better results if you start going to the gym. And I was like, oh God, I have to go to the gym. So that part intimidated me a little bit. But now, I mean, it's part of my lifestyle now. So no
What in
regrets.
Yeah, what intimidated you about going to the gym?
How much like well, how little time I had in my day. I was like, how in the world am I going to add this in and maneuver this? But I've figured it out. So I'm thankful that I did have that push because it is something that I missed. I think when you get in the mindset for so long of like the only way I'm going to lose weight is if I do cardio or if I'm jumping around all the time. And I mean, I'm older now and I've had 3 kids, so my body did not handle that well at all. So I did really miss lifting weights and I'm glad that I had that extra push to be able to get back into it.
Yeah. And, not all of our clients do like go to the gym or have to go to the gym, but where you were at with your goals and where you currently were at like with your body and everything, you've had like years of experience with, working out. Like you said, that was something that you did. And to take it to that next level where I know you needed to go or wanted to
Mhm.
go, like you just need that extra resources. You need that extra weight. And sometimes doing body weight stuff, it can be great to like maintain where you're at.
Right.
But if you want to keep progressing, once you get to a certain point, having those extra machines, weights, and all that makes a big difference. But I love what you said too about like you were like, shoot, like how am I going to fit this in? How am I going to have the time? But you somehow
Yeah.
found a way. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of like thinking, oh, they're so busy. Like, how am I going to have time to track my food, or how am I going to have time to like even like if they're not working out now, how am I going to make time to fit in, 3 workouts a week? But a lot of times, if it's really that important to us, like we will find a way to do it.
Yeah, that is like I will say that is my biggest pet peeve that I have heard from people. Obviously I am busy when I started this program. So I work 410. So my day at work starts at 7 and ends at 5. And then if I don't go straight home, I get maybe an hour. I already only get like 2.5 hours with my kids a night because of bedtime and their ages and stuff. So I knew like, okay, I can't go to the gym after work. I was in school still, so I was trying to figure out how am I going to work on, my homework and everything. How am I going to just have everything on my plate that I need to have? So the only way for me to do that was to get up early, to where it didn't affect anybody. I kept telling myself, if you go when it doesn't affect anybody else in your family, then you can't have guilt about it. So for me, that's getting up at 3:30 and getting to the gym by 4 and then going home, getting ready for work. And then when I'm done, I can enjoy the little bit of time that I have at night with my family. So that is my pet peeve when I get asked all the time, how do you have time for it? And if I say, well, I get up and go before work, oh, I don't have the time for that. Well, I don't enjoy it. And I want to make that clear.
Uh-huh.
I don't enjoy the 3:30 wake up call, but it is something that I mean, I have come to like I do kind of enjoy it some days. Yes, I have days where my alarm goes off and I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want to do this." But I think just having that time to myself too, to start my day has been huge for me. It's helped me a lot to like I said, I don't have any guilt. My kids are sleeping, my husband's sleeping. I'm not missing out on time with anybody. It's just kind of like my time to be me and focus on bettering myself.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think like that's so important. And there are obviously situations and some experiences where some people do have some real limitations. But I think if you really took an objective look at your day, really like there's some kind of app on your phone that you could like record time like a stopwatch almost, and you can record everything that you do throughout the day. And if you add up
Mhm.
like all the time throughout the day, every single day of the week of what you're spending doing this versus that, maybe just laying on the couch for 30 minutes here or there, just scrolling through social media, right? Like that time can be used for something else, if that's what you're using
Right.
it for. Or like on the weekend, maybe during the week like you can't work out, like go to the gym, but during the weekend you can. And maybe it's like you just feel guilty, leaving your house, leaving your kids for that hour or so. But like we talked about before, doing that, like they're going to get the 50% of you, or the 50% version of you in that hour, versus if you do take that hour away, and go to the gym and then take care of your health and feel better, then the rest of the week they're getting the 100% of you, which is, a lot better, even though it's less total time. Um, so I think there's always a way to fit it in. I think in very rare circumstances, maybe there isn't, but I think that's not the majority. Like the majority of people can find a way to fit this in, whether it be, a workout at the gym or maybe a short workout at home, or even just going for a walk, right? Like getting, so many steps in per day, like finding 30 minutes of your day to devote to walking or something. Like we can all find that time and make that time um somehow. And actually, I probably want to rephrase it to that. Like you don't find time, you make the time, because you're not just going
Right.
to like stumble upon the time to do it when you're so busy. Like I don't think you stumble upon the time to go to the gym with how busy you
Yeah.
are, but you find or you make the time to go to the gym.
Yeah. I mean, there's been times too, just to hit my 10,000 steps that I'm like pacing the office, just trying to get some steps in instead of sitting in my office. If I have like 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get some steps in. So that's what I mean. Like, I understand too, obviously, not everybody can get up and go to the gym or drive wherever to go, but we can always find time to be active in some way, shape, or
Mhm.
form.
Yeah, and I think people underestimate how much those little uh like bits of effort can add up throughout the day, because like good rule of thumb with steps is like if you're walking at a relatively like decently quick pace, you're not walking like a slug, 10 minutes is probably going to give you about 1,000 steps. So if you're able to walk around for 5 minutes in between meetings or between this or that, but you do that, let's say like 6 times a day, that's going to be
Hmm.
an extra like 3,000 steps you're going to get, versus if you just like had that mentality of, oh, it's only 5 minutes, I'm just going to sit and scroll my phone for 5 minutes. And that
Right.
could make a huge difference. Um,
Hmm.
uh, was there anything else you wanted to add to that at all?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So I wanted to, since I know like you have until noon, I wanted to dive into um kind of where you were at before you officially joined and signed up, like as far as um just your mentality around food, mentality around your body, how happy you were, unhappy you were with things. And then compared to like where you're at now, like since you started, you're down from like your heaviest weight the first week to now down about 12 pounds. Some huge body composition changes too over that time period, and probably have learned a lot as well. So like kind of give everyone a rundown of where you're at then versus now.
I think, I think looking back, right before I started, I think I was probably like the lowest I have been, like mentally, how I felt about myself. Like I said, I was postpartum. My hormones were all over the place. I had just gotten a surgery. Um, I I have never, like I said, I have never been like a bad eater. I've never been somebody that's like, I'm going to go to McDonald's for lunch and get a cheeseburger and fries. I've always been super like mindful of what I'm eating. But like I said before, I've just never eaten enough. But that is a problem, obviously, as well. So um, I knew I had to do something. I, honest to God, had a conversation with my husband one night right before I joined. And I was looking in the mirror and I remember looking at him and crying and just saying, like, how did I get here? And he was like, Katie, you've had 3 kids in 5 years. Like, obviously your body is different. And I remember telling him I was going to look up, like, I was as serious as I was looking up, like, where to get like a mommy makeover or lipo or something, because I was like, I cannot look at myself like this all the time. And when I mentioned that to him, he was like, you're insane. Like, you have to do something. Obviously, I know we're harder on ourselves, and I am 1000% really hard on myself. And that's something that I'm trying really hard to work on. But I knew in that moment when, like, you're to the point where you're crying in the mirror and you're looking up like surgery to fix your appearance that really isn't even like that terrible, since I was only six months postpartum at the time, 5 months postpartum. I knew I had to do something, not just for my physical appearance, but for my mental health as well, and just to kind of focus on what I could do moving forward. And another thing I think that stood out for me is I have 3 daughters, and that has always stuck in my mind. Like, I know to you, I'll message you and I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot, like, I'm so self-conscious right now, or I'll vent to you, but I don't ever talk badly about my appearance in front of my daughters. And that's something that I have really, really, really been mindful of, and something that I have made a promise to myself that I will always continue to be mindful of. But they watch my every move. So they know, hey, mom gets up at, early in the morning and she goes to the gym. And I always tell them I do it to be healthy. I don't ever mention, my appearance or anything like that. So that's something I think I've learned along the way too, is you focus so much on the scale. And I think that's what I was focusing on. I've never weighed this much. I've never, been at this point, but I mean, in hindsight, I haven't lost a ton of weight in this program, but just the changes that I've made and the things that I've learned, I think are just so important, and something that I can help others with and help my girls with growing up. So I don't know. I can't say enough about what I've learned and what it's given me. I think a lot of people think, I'm going to join this program and I'm going to lose a ton of weight and it's going to fall off super fast, but that's not the case. I mean, it might be for some people, but I think more importantly, it's what is it going to teach you? What can you take with you? And where can you, like, inspire others through it as well?
Yeah, I love all of that. Um, and there goes there goes Katie downplaying the weight that she's lost because she's the hardest on herself. No, I mean you
Downplaying it. I'm just saying, I think when you join, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose like 30 or 40 pounds and it's gonna fly off. And like, that's not even real. I don't even think my body probably would ever need to lose that much weight. But
no.
in your brain, like, you get there
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, yeah, and I think it's hard because you see all these other messages on like magazines or on social media of all these people who are like losing, hey, I like did this and I lost, 20 pounds in the past 2 or 3 months. And it's like you don't know the backstory of like where they started exactly, right? They could have started at like 300 pounds, right? And you were nowhere near that. So that's a totally different
Right.
ratio to you. And then also like um you don't know what they did necessarily to lose that weight. Like maybe they said low carb and they're like, oh, it wasn't that extreme. But maybe if you actually took a look at like how many calories they were eating, maybe they were eating like 800 a day, something extreme.
Right.
And like, you know, people put the highlight reels out on social media and can, misconstrue things to make them look like, hey, I lost all this weight and I feel like fantastic. But then, every single night they're battling themselves to not have like an entire, bucket of ice cream because they're just so restricted. So we have to like be really careful about, looking at those things and comparing. But your progress has been great. Like 12 pounds in 4.5 months is fantastic, especially because like when you join the program, you also like you were under eating a little bit. So we took some time to bring your calories up too. But I think too, like I think one of the biggest benefits is what you said was like the mental changes that you made too. And just like some of the things mindset things we broke about the scale, I think. And then also, um, uh, maybe having an outside person tell you like how maybe you should be a little bit easier on yourself week to week. I think that has probably helped. Like it's one thing for, your husband or somebody to say, "Hey, like no, you're doing a good job." Like cuz they they're a little bit biased, right? And they want to make sure that you don't feel guilty at all or feel your best. But having, I think, an outside person be like, "Hey, like you actually are doing a good job and we're on the right path." I think it's probably helped you too. And um I love how your daughter's like setting a good example for them is so important to you. And I think that's so important to frame these changes that you make nutritionally or exercise wise as I'm making these changes because I love myself and I love my body and I want to take care of it and I want to give it what it needs and I want to do good to it. Like there was a conversation I had with a client a few months back and she was like wondering how to like approach this conversation of because she was tracking her food and she did have a calorie goal and how to like approach that with her daughter without it seeming like, oh, I'm trying to restrict things or anything like that. And it's just frame it as if they do see you like tracking your food or having a calorie goal. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm eating enough to fuel my body. So, it's healthy and it's, getting enough of what it needs. You could always frame it that way. And then it plants a good seed revolving nutrition, in their head versus like a negative thing of I have to stay away from this.
Yeah. No, for sure. We actually just had that conversation last night. I was talking about how many calories I had left or something, and my 6-year-old said, "What are calories?" And I said, "It's what we eat to fuel our body." And she was like, "Okay." They don't know what you're saying, but they pay attention for sure.
Yeah, yeah, there's always a way to spin it in a positive way, because it is a positive thing. Like, you shouldn't be tracking your food because you hate your body or you hate yourself. You shouldn't be forcing yourself to go to the gym because you hate your body or you hate yourself. You wanna go there because you love yourself and you wanna take care of yourself and you wanna be and feel like the best version of you that you can be.
Right.
Um, so we kinda talked about, where you were then and where you were now. So what was there anything that like surprised you the most about this program? Over the past like 4.5 months, like what surprised you, if anything, or what did you maybe think it would be like when you first heard about a program? Because I know there are obviously tons of programs out there.
I think one thing that really surprised me is just how easy it's been. I mean, in a lot of ways, what I'm referring to is like food wise. So I think when it can be intimidating, especially if you're somebody that's never like tracked food before, you kind of go into it thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this strict diet that I have to follow. But it's been so easy to still eat the things that I want to eat. If I have a day, like when I was on vacation, I remember telling you, like, I'm in a fat loss phase. I'm so nervous that I'm going to blow this, but I was able to go to a restaurant and be like, okay, I had this for breakfast, I had this for lunch, I still have the calories left to, have a burger and, maybe a beer or something with my husband. So, and to come home from vacation and I actually lost weight, that was amazing to me, and it was something that I was like, okay, I can do this long term, I can continue this. So I think that was my biggest surprise was just it's not something like you have to follow to a T or you're going to blow your progress or anything like that. It's something that if you make it a lifestyle change, it's very easy to continue. Um yeah.
Yeah, no, and I love that. It's a great answer. And I think, yeah, it's like people without having that reassurance and having maybe like someone above you, like a mentor saying like, "Hey, this is okay." And you like trusting in that and like actually seeing it through and saying, "Hey, like it actually is okay." To have beer or this, here and there and still see progress. It's hard to believe at first. Like you think you're going to
Mhm.
sabotage things. So I think that's a big mental breakthrough that a lot of clients have is like when they are able to include those things and they look back and like 3 months from now, they're down, 5 to 10 pounds or so. And they're like, wow, like I did this while still living my life, going on vacation, having beer here and there, this without it being like a huge interruption to my life to where I have to like cut out everything else because of it.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the other things that I think you kind of taught too is just one bad day does not affect your whole progress. So that's something that's really stuck with me because I mean, we all have days where we're just like, man, I am not feeling this today. Like, I don't want to track this today. I want to just kind of have a day to breathe. And that's okay. Like, I've learned that it's okay to not be perfect all the time. And it's okay to not, track every single thing that I put in my mouth if I have one day where I'm just like, I need a break. So just that constant reminder has been huge for me that if I do have a day where I oversleep, even that's happened, and I panic like, oh my gosh, my whole week's off now because I overslept and I missed a day. That's okay. As long as I pick up the next day, or, I'm still getting my steps in that day or whatever it may be, my progress isn't going to be ruined.
Yeah, I remember you messaging me. Not I wouldn't say maybe panicking. Maybe you were on your side, but I
Oh, I
didn't.
was.
Like in the morning, hey, I slept in. Like, what do I do? And it's like you can just do it tomorrow. Like that's okay.
I know.
uh,
I don't know what's
um,
wrong with me.
I mean, like I said, we're the hardest on ourselves, and we also overthink ourselves. The most. So what areas, other than like the weight that you've lost or the changes in your body you've seen, has this like program affected like any other areas of your life, any other improvements you've seen in like relationships or this or that?
I think obviously my mental health is a lot better. I've learned just to kind of plan my weeks out, which I've realized really does help my anxiety. I think when you're I mean, a parent at all, or anybody, I shouldn't say just a parent, but I know for me, like, 3 kids and a husband, and trying to keep, everybody's schedules in order and my house in order and work and everything else, to have a plan has really helped me in more ways than one. And that's something that I know you kind of worked with me on, is just plan ahead. If you have something coming up, just make sure that you plan ahead for that day. And I've kind of transitioned that into other aspects of my life, not just food. Just in general, having a plan and realizing if you go off that plan, that's okay. Your whole day isn't ruined. I definitely would say my confidence is way better than it was before. I've never been somebody that, like, I've never had like super low self-esteem. I'm obviously really hard on myself, but just I feel like this program has been really empowering for me, and realizing like you can do hard things and you can share that with other people, and being able to share, my experiences with other people is really empowering to me, and it has boosted my confidence, and I love helping people. So, there are people that message me and they're like, how are you doing it? How are you fitting this in? And to me, that's uplifting, and I love helping others, and I want to tell other people about the program and just what I've been doing, and um just how to feel good about themselves. I think life is so hard and it's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody's life is perfect. So just to be able to, uplift others and inspire other people has been really great for my self-esteem, for my mental health, for just a lot of aspects of my life.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I've seen you post, pictures and captions and stuff on social media, like sharing parts of your journey. I love seeing the pictures of you at like 4 a.m. at the gym, like just finished my workout. uh, and I love that because like, you know, when I started coaching and when I started posting, like I started posting content before I even started coaching, and I didn't even have the expectation of really being a coach when I was posting content. I just did it because people posting content helped me, lose
Mhm.
weight and get in better shape. So I'm like, okay, let me post and share my journey to hopefully inspire someone else. So the whole point of why I started this back in 2013 was like to just inspire more people and to help more people. And now it's just very cool when you say that, where this program has inspired you to post, your own journey, because now you're reaching people that I wasn't able to reach because I don't know. And it's not even about, them seeing your post and like, hey, what program did you do? Let me go sign up for it. But you inspiring them separately to maybe even just make a different change in their life that's positive. It's like what I started is now like trickling down to other people that I will maybe even never even meet. And that's
Mhm.
just really cool to hear. Uh, so like one last question, because I know you have to go. What would you say to somebody who's skeptical about like getting started with the journey or signing up for the program?
Just do it. Um, yeah, I think, it's so easy to talk yourself out of it and to say, I can't do it. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. It's selfish of me. But you are never ever going to regret, investing in yourself. Like I said before, especially as a mom, and I know there's a ton of, other moms that I've talked to, and they're like, it's not my time right now, but it is your time right now. I think, that's how you are a better person, a better parent, is if you do things, to make yourself happy and work on yourself. And if you're in a good headspace and you have, an active lifestyle, it's only going to benefit you. So I think to anybody that is questioning, whether or not it's worth it or they can do it, we can all do hard things, and it's 1000% been worth it for me. So I would encourage anybody to take the leap for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate you coming on here, especially fitting this in between meetings and things, because I know your schedule is crazy, like I said, um, and you might even be exhausted from a 4 a.m. workout this morning. So I
I know I look
appreciate it. What was that?
it. I said, I know I look it. I definitely am
No,
tired, but it was worth it.
no, I wouldn't even have guessed. So I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'll let you go. Um, but if anyone has any questions for Katie or needs some motivation or inspiration, I'm sure like she'd be happy to, talk with you or message you back.
For
Um,
sure.
anything else, like any like last words or anything? Because I know we covered a lot. If not, that's fine. No pressure.
I don't think so. No, I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful to Rebecca for pushing me into joining, for her encouragement always too. So I love the community of people that you have. So I'm just grateful.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely grateful to be a part of your journey too. So, um, cool. Well, I will let you go. And thank you, everyone, so much for listening. And we'll see you guys in the next one then.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.